Hang on. Okay, now can you hear me? Right, it should be good now. Please tell me you can hear me now. Now, I must surely be unmuted now. Yes, thank you. Oh, fucking hell. So basically, I forgot to unmute myself, and the button on the Blue Yeti was flashing, which I didn't realize meant that you were muted. So I've clicked unmute on the StreamYard, but even when I did that, I was still muted on the microphone. So fuck me, man. So I've just been rabbiting on for the last 5 fucking minutes. I mean, I was reading the. Oh my god. Yeah. So, oh my god. So I wasn't reading the chat properly. I was reading the chat, and you were telling me in the chat that was muted, but I wasn't taking the obvious signs that was muted, and I was still talking. So okay. So we start again. So I haven't been muted the entire time. Fuck me, man. Okay, so look, basically, I acknowledged everyone in the chat and spoke to each and every one of you. I didn't ignore everyone. I spoke to everybody. So don't feel ignored because I was talking. So okay, so let's get going again. Okay, Barbenheimer. I'll start again. I'm just going to repeat myself. Barbenheimer. So let me know. Barbie, Oppenheimer, both movies dropped together. I know this isn't horror related, but I can kind of veer away from horror every now and again. And that's what I want to try and do more with these streams. But the whole BarbieHimer meme, the way that thing came together, and the way it's led to massive box office. Like, where did that start? Like, how did that come about? Was that something that came about completely organically? Because I don't really understand how it happened. Because when these movies were about to drop, I seen a lot of a lot of news stations quoting BarbieHimer, and I'm thinking, where did this originate? And this seems to have played a massive part in like pushing people to the cinema. I always knew Barbie was going to be a massive hit. I could have predicted that before the film dropped. I knew this film was going to be a massive hit. It just was. Um, Oppenheimer, not so much. I'm surprised Oppenheimer's doing as well as what it is. I can only put it down to like maybe it's the yin to Barbie's yang in a way that it's like people are going to see Oppenheimer as a kind of like, well, I'm not going to go see Barbie. I'm going to see Oppenheimer. But it's a strange one. It's like, I mean, but Barbie, I can understand, a lot of like Barbie, for all the shit Barbie gets in terms of like, a lot of like feminists see it as like a backward step, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, oh, it's just girls playing with dolls and shit. And like they don't like that. A lot of girls like dolls, and a lot of women who grew up with Barbie like Barbie. They like that sort of feminist, you know, um, perspective on life. Somebody who's attractive, good looking, but is still got a personality, still got a career, still career minded. Somebody who admires men but doesn't take orders from them. And I think that's like kind of like what a lot of like genuine feminists are, rather than this like new style feminist who's basically kind of like is called like Dave and is like 17 stone and like built like a brick shit house. To me, that's not a feminist. Just my opinion. Not very popular opinion in some circles, but and I think that's why Barbie is particularly sort of like popular and why it's going to do well, because you know there's a lot of fucking females out there want to see a movie with a feminine woman like Margot Robbie doing feminine shit. There's a lot of gay guys out there who are going to want to see this film. There's a lot of couples who are going to a lot of men who are going to get dragged to the cinema by their female partner to go and see this film. It's not rocket science. This is why this film is done really well. It's just makes sense. People like old school shit. That's why Top Gun Maverick did well. People want old school shit when they go to cinema. This sells tickets. This newfangled fucking nonsense with Indiana Jones and the seven pronouns and all this other fucking nonsense is going to die at the box office because nobody wants to see this shit. So, I mean, come on. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, Fatty, am I wrong? Like, I was muted before, Fatty. I do love that username, Fatty. I mean, I could get cancelled for calling you that in 2023, but I hope he don't take offense. But by the way, if you are a new subscriber, like, let me know how you found the channel and shit. Yeah, amen, brother. Thank you, Jay. I knew you'd understand. They should combine the Barbie and Oppenheimer universes. That would be interesting. Lauren says 17 stone, translated for Americans, £295. Yeah, basically the size of your average WWE wrestler. So yeah, not well. If you're not in shape, that's pretty damn big. Barbie had no real competition. There weren't any similar movies out. Yeah, exactly, because there's nothing really there. There's nothing really. Yeah, Sam, I appreciate your opinion, man. Man, I shouldn't call you man, should I? It just comes naturally to me. I'm a feminist and I play with Barbies. For me, it felt apart now. See, that was smart. I do like. See, I always look to The Simpsons as well with Lisa and Malibu Stacy. That was always like kind of like the Barbie, and it was something that girls like to play with. But she was kind of disappointed with how they saw Malibu Stacy, I can kind of see it with Barbie the way a lot of people might be disappointed with how some people see Barbie. I'm rambling, but if you can see what I'm saying about Barbie, it's something that feminists can take on board, but then add to. I'm not making much sense, really, am I? But going back to what I said about the movie, I totally stand by what I say about that. A lot of like women, a lot of young girls, they love Barbie for who Barbie is, and I think that's why it's done well. Nuke the blue hairs in space, to be sure. Becky Lynch might come for her with that kind of talk. Oh yes, sir. I found your channel through JC's channel. Oh, thank you, Zodiac. I appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah. As again, has anybody answered the question? Does anybody know though how the BarbieHimer thing really took off? Because I'm not entirely sure. Like, how did BarbieHimer become like an online thing? I just don't know, because that is played some part, I think, in the box office. I would say. Oppenheimer's film about moral corruption, so was Barbie. So yeah, please leave a comment, and if anybody knows where this whole BarbieHimer sort of thing started, because I'm not entirely sure. So moving on. Okay, so let's move on to Saw 10. Saw 10 trailer dropped yesterday, was it? 2 days ago? Who's excited for Saw 10? Anyone? I'm not, really. I mean, it dropped. This wasn't going to be a topic of conversation for tonight, but the trailer dropped yesterday, I think. So I thought I've got to include it. And I know there's a lot of Saw fans, like, obviously in the community. I couldn't give less of a fuck about the Saw franchise. I checked out after 3. I've not watched a thing since. But apparently this movie is set between 1 and 2, which kind of might bring me back. So, again, that seems like a sensible move from like the writers, the director, to like bring some of the older fans back who like maybe checked out after like the first few films, because like I checked out after 3 when obviously Jigsaw died. Obviously there was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, and then there was Jigsaw, was there, and then Spiral. I lose track. I just totally lose track. So to set this movie between 1 and 2 makes sense. Obviously, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I saw the trailer and like obviously John looks. I mean, this is 20 years later. have they managed to? Because he looked quite old in Saw 2. I mean, he didn't look young then, and like the guy's like in his like mid 70s, like late 70s now. Have they? I mean, I don't know if they're going to try and de-age him for this film in any way, because obviously, if this is going to be set during the events of between Saw 1 and Saw 2, he's meant to be in his like mid 50s. Clearly doesn't look in his mid 50s now. So how they're gonna? I mean, I in the trailer I didn't really stop and like pause anything. So I don't know whether in the trailer I didn't really pay too much attention to what they've done with him, but yeah, it's not going to look too convincing if the guy's like 79 and they've done nothing to make him look younger. Um, but yeah, I mean, anybody excited for Saw 10? Really? Is it past its sell by date, this franchise, or if this is a success, obviously this is going to go for. I mean, really, can they go forward with a Saw 11, Saw 12, Saw 13? Because obviously, would it go back to maybe doing something, you know, in his early days? I don't know, but the trailer looks promising. Obviously, I like the premise of it. He's being cheated. He's being promised, cancer treatments in Mexico, and it's just been a big scam, which is kind of like quite relevant to like what goes on now, because a lot of people do travel out of the country. I mean, certainly in the UK, a lot of people travel out of the country to get treatment now. I mean, the amount of people who go to like Turkey in the I can't speak for the United States, but because like treatment for like, you say you want to get your teeth fixed, you want to get like veneers, and like you want those pearly whites. If in the UK you're talking £4,000 or £5,000. People can go to Turkey, they can get it done for like half the price, a quarter of the price. But I've heard some horror stories coming from like some of these places which aren't exactly legit. So this whole idea of going abroad to get like treatment is not new, and it doesn't always have like exactly great results. So it's kind of quite relevant to like what's going on now in 2023, even though this movie's obviously set in like 2003, 2004. But box office predictions for this film. I mean, this film is dropping at the beginning of. Is Saw 10 dropping in October? Because if it is that really, it's a blessing and a curse. To drop a movie in October is a blessing and a curse, really, because if you look at the competition in October, people have got limited budgets when it comes to going to the cinema. Especially in this day and age, it's not cheap. You talk about cinema tickets, plus if you're going to go and get on the snacks and the drinks, for one person, you're probably talking like, £20 maybe, $20, $25 US currency. I mean, it's not cheap. So I barely go to the cinema. I don't think I've been to cinema once this year, because there's been absolutely nothing on anyway. But come October, there's going to probably be a few films I'm going to want to see. But am I going to go 3 times in a month? I can't afford that shit. That's if I go with my son, and I'm even though he should pay himself, the cheeky little bastard, because he's got money, but he won't fucking pay. If I pay for me and my son free trips, we're talking £60. That's that's a lot of money. A lot of money. So yeah, dropping a horror movie in October can be a blessing, because you're getting that crowd, but it can also be a curse, because if there's going to be a lot of competition, then that could backfire big time. But I don't know. One more thing I did want to cover about the Saw franchise is, let me know in the chat what your favorite Saw movie is, because I've only seen the first three. Now, if I am going to bother to like sort of go back and check out 4 to like bloody 9, wherever it is, do I need to see them in all in order, or can I just cherry pick a few which are like a good watch? Because I really don't have the time to be watching like 6 Saw movies. I mean, okay, this Saw 10 movie, I don't need to have seen 4 to 10 or 4 to 9 to understand what's going on. But I'm curious, because a lot of people rave about the Saw movies, and I liked 1, I liked 2, 3. I was kind of like on the wane for me, and then obviously with Jigsaw dying in part 3, I didn't really see any point in going past it. But if there's any standouts from like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, let me know, and I'll maybe check, one of them out, because the I'm not going to sift through like 5 Saw movies back to back. It's not happening. I just can't do it. So chat. Let me know, what do you consider the definitive Saw movie? Because I love 1. I mean, 2's fine. 3, and again, so that's why I kind of left the franchise. But you know, Saw is a pretty complex storyline. I'm sure there are catch-up videos on YouTube to refresh you. Get AMC A-list. You pay $20 a month and see 3 movies a week. There is something similar in the UK. I think Cineworld, which is like kind of like mainstream cinema sort of like company. You do something very similar. What's up, Griffin? What's up, man? I've never seen any entry past the third Saw film, Tennis. Yeah, you sound similar to me, man. Shout out to the Bosnian Correctional Facilities. Pfizer is better than Margot. I've not seen that one, I don't think. So would be a fun tabletop strategy game after the kid exists. After the success of Barbie, they tried to get a Skid Row Sally spin-off starring Pfizer, but she OD'd on and Kate Greta Gerwig's face. Oh, that's where Dan's comments come in. Yeah, because I'm going backwards now through the chat, which is not a good idea. Sam says, Barbie's a cash grab and an attempt to rehab the doll's image. When I grew up, Barbie was roundly criticised for unrealistic beauty standards and encouraging eating disorders. It starts because they both got released. I'm more excited than the last 2 films. As that peak list of not knowing where everything ends up, I think it'll be good. Okay, so let's go back. Donnie Wahlberg, the syringe pit, and the soundtrack makes all 2 my favorite. Yeah, the syringe pit is horrible. Really, really nasty. I mean, that's just, there's nothing. It's not gory. I mean, really, in terms of like, it's not arms getting chopped off. It's not heads getting chopped off. But sharp objects like syringes going into like fingers, especially. I can handle syringes going into like the back, the neck, the face, and the legs. It's going into the fingers. I've got to think about fingers. Really don't like finger gore. Like things like, so anything going into the fingers is just, it's like, I think it's Rabid, the Cronenberg movie from the 70s. If I remember right, there's a scene where somebody gets a finger cut off with a pair of scissors. It's like, oh no, hate that. Lone says Saw 6 is the second best of the bunch. 2 is the best easily. Dan says you can argue second's the best. I love the Hoffman stuff as well. The only thing it's a drug. I can't get my words out. So let's move on from Saw and let's talk about The Exorcist Believer. Okay. So this is another trailer that dropped in the last week. I think it dropped originally in the Oppenheimer movie. I think the trailer dropped before the Oppenheimer movie premiere. But I mean, is this a movie anybody wants, really? Does anybody want a new Exorcist movie? Like, I totally forgot about the Exorcist prequel movies from the 2000s. I mean, I knew, obviously, I've seen the first 3 films. Now, I totally forgot about those god-awful... I mean, I'll say god-awful. I've not seen them. So, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so maybe they were great movies, but I'm guessing they probably weren't good movies. The prequel, these whatever these movies were from the 2000s. But 2023, like, does anybody really want like a fucking Exorcist movie? like when you've okay, like here's hear me out on this one, because I say that and I think it's probably going to be pretty bad. But what was people's opinions when Exorcist 3 was about to drop in 1990? There would have been a lot of people like very, very skeptical about that movie coming out. In relation to the original and how bad the sequel was, there would have been a lot of very, very skeptical people. And I think Exorcist 3 got a pretty bad rap when it came out. I could be mistaken, but I don't remember it getting particularly good reviews. I think it was one of those movies that was like a slow burn and it gained appreciation over time. I honestly don't think this is the case with this film. I mean, David Gordon Green on board with the other fucking Halloween guy. Oh, what's his name? Who's the other Halloween guy who's involved in this? Him anyway. Their involvement and Blumhouse involvement. I mean, Blumhouse just had to be involved. They're just involved in everything. I mean, it's kind of like if Blumhouse involvement, if this was just like a completely new franchise with no expectations, and you told me the Blumhouse was involved and David Gordon Green, I'd probably be like, okay, I'll give it a chance. I don't mind that. Blumhouse is Blumhouse. They've got issues and they vary wildly in their their output. David Gordon Green with the Halloween, 2018 trilogy, it's got high points, it's got very, very low points. But to take on the Exorcist name and go forward with that with a trilogy as well, I mean, it's like, oh my god, I just don't see this ending well. I really don't. So yeah, Danny McBride, David Gordon Green on board. We've got Ellen Burstyn back, obviously, to unite the original movie. Now she's 90, so I don't know how much of a role she's going to play in this film, because obviously being 90 years old, is she just there as a token gesture? Is she going to be in like one scene? I don't know. And if this is going to be, a trilogy of 3 movies, now I'm guessing they haven't like signed them for 3 films, because the chances of her still being alive by the time the 3rd film comes out is probably about 50% at best. I'd hate to be like, a pessimist, but if she's 90, you don't sign somebody up for 3 movies at 90 years old. So I don't really know what sort of a role she's going to play in this film. I mean, the trailer looks pretty horrible, in my opinion. I'm not happy about it. I mean, I just, the Exorcist franchise is a franchise that, like, I love the first film, although I don't think it's quite as great as some people make out. And I really like 3. 2's just awful. And I've never seen those 2 movies from the 2000s. So it's not like a franchise that I really don't care, really, whether they ever made another Exorcist movie ever again. And I don't really care, like, if it's amazing or I mean, it'd be nice for it to be amazing, but if it's complete dog shit, I don't really care, because I'm not invested in it. So it is what it is. Let's just go back to the chat. We need to do a sword into region 3 sometime. Yeah, definitely. Believe it is going to dethrone the Heretics, the series low. I had a feeling Lorne would probably have a pretty dim view of this new movie. I didn't think you'd be too happy about it, Lorne. No, it looks awful. I don't know. Don't fix what isn't broken. Another terrible Exorcist movie to add to the pile. Pazuzu origin story in the 3rd one will be Pazuzu imposter is terrorizing them in the alehouse, and they get James Earl Jones to the Exorcist. Yeah, Green makes me even less excited. Well, I mean, there'll be a lot of Halloween Ends friggin' fanboys who'll probably be creaming themselves over this movie. They just can't get enough of David Gordon Green. But Morgan Creek mishandled Exorcist 3, but no, it was always respected and got generally good reviews because Blatty. I always forget Paul Schrader did the first prequel. Daniel McBride. The Exorcist was actually very good. 1 and 3 were good. I mean, I can't speak for like those last 2 movies. What's up, Jamie? Nice to see you in the chat. 2 possessed kids in the room when I said that. Indiana Jones, the aging for those big elements. Yeah, I mean, it's 90 years old, man. I mean, that's going to take some de-aging. Lindy Blair with the Exorcist, she'll die, and then a ghost in the second one. I'd imagine the Exorcist will be rated anywhere from shit to fucking shit. Pazuzu Wednesday nights, yeah. Oh my god. We might as well do the Exorcist meets the Fast and the Furious spin-off. I want to see Dom do an exorcism. Pazuzu Wednesday nights. Okay, where are we up to now? So we covered Exorcist. Okay, on to Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which is another movie that is being revealed to be getting released sometime, I believe, in October. We've not got a trailer for this yet. This came out of left field, or nowhere, basically. I wasn't expecting this. It's a prequel to the 2019 movie. It's set in 1969, apparently. So is this going to be a prequel to anything that's gone before then? Because the original Pet Sematary book set in like the 80s when he wrote it? Because if that's the case, then this movie is going to be set before anything King related. Because the movie is going to be set in 1969. Yeah, it's a prequel. They say it's a prequel to the 2019 movie, but obviously, if this is set in 69, it's going to be a prequel to anything really that King ever wrote. So, again, Bloodlines. I mean, Pet Sematary Bloodlines. I mean, using Bloodlines as well as a kind of like as a title. I mean, the last time they used Bloodlines or Bloodline in a horror franchise, I think, was Hellraiser, and we all remember what that film was like. So it sounds cheap. It sounds nasty. It sounds tacky. It sounds like the sort of piece of shit I've got no intention of seeing. It's also dropping in October, which this is partly what I was talking about earlier on. Blessing or a curse, dropping a movie in October. I mean, is that good? Is that bad? I mean, the competition for the pockets of like horror fans in October. It's like there's a lot of shit going down, and people have to make choices. And a Pet Sematary film dropping in October, I think it is meant to drop at the beginning of the month, which makes sense. Because you don't want to be going up later in the month against some of the big hitters, and there are quite a few big hitters dropping at the end of October. But I mean, this will be on par with that fucking Cat's Eye movie that dropped in last year with Zac Efron, which was never going to do any money and which was streaming online in HD at the same time the movie dropped in cinemas, which was just bizarre that they actually put that movie out to stream at the same time it was going into cinemas. Man, if they make that decision with this film, you might as well just call it a day and go home, because that's just ridiculous. But I mean, Pet Sematary 2019 it was okay. It wasn't awful. It was perfectly, solidly made movie with, a decent cast. But not the sort of movie I'm going to pay good money to go to the cinema to see. I mean, fuck me. Dune 2 is dropping round that time, and Dune 2 is just an absolute must see for me. But yeah, Pet Sematary Bloodlines, come on. Yeah, Pumpkinhead 4 Bloodlines, seriously? Is that a thing? Was Pumpkinhead 4 called Bloodlines? Because it wasn't Hellraiser 4 they called Bloodline or Bloodlines or some shit, and that was fucking atrocious. I mean, yeah, it doesn't sound good, does it? Let's have a look. we've done that. Where are we up to? I pity the guys to step into Fred Gwynn's shoes. Is Pet Sematary 2 any good? Pet Sematary 2 is really good, Jay. Definitely check that one out. Early 90s, can't go wrong. It focuses on a young child, even as well, that was childhood friends. I just want to see how they tiptoe around the Indian gravesite trope. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Made for modern audiences, I think they might say at the beginning of this film. That seems to be the go-to quote now with a lot of these films. I meant the Exorcist TV show, that 2 seasons. I've not seen that. It's supposedly going to be how the original cemetery came about. A lot of the Mike Max, a lot of the flashbacks and some CGI Wendigo. Clancy Brown, Edward Furlong are both great in it. A couple of good kills too. Before Edward Furlong went fucking nuts. Edward Furlong had the world at his feet in the early 90s, and then, well, cocaine's a hell of a drug. That's all I'll say. Oh, June 2, what is it? June 2 late till next year, right? Okay. Thank you, Lon, for putting it down on my year. I had no idea. I thought it was dropping in the fall or the fall. Sound like American. Autumn. The fall. Why am I talking like an American? Because there's Americans in the chat. Fuck me, man. Next year. Tarantino's last movie got delayed. What's Tarantino's last movie? What's he doing? Is it his last film? I mean, and what's his last film? So he's never going to do this slasher film he promised for the longest time. I always wanted to see a Tarantino slasher movie. Okay, next year. Okay. Okay, let's just. I'm going to round things up. I mean, this has been just wasn't going to be a particularly long stream tonight. I wanted to just get back on board, and chat's been great. Chat's been really lively, and I just wanted to get back on sort of get back doing this one-to-one thing and discuss a few topics. The final topic tonight, which you guys will, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about this one. Someone put a poll on. Well, it wasn't really a poll. Someone posted on Twitter basically, best 4-movie run from a director's cinematography, from their filmography. Somebody mentioned basically their example was Argento from Deep Red through to Tenebrae. I think it was Deep Red, Suspiria, Inferno, and Tenebrae. Basically, a run of 4 movies where there's no, so it's basically Carpenter's would be, for me, it would be Halloween. Then it would be The Fog. The Thing. Oh, what's up, Jay? What's up, man? You see on board, man. Help me out, guys, because whoever it was a Twitter thing basically. So somebody used Argento as an example with Deep Red through to Tenebrae, 4 movies with 4 movies in succession. The best 4 movies in history of a director, basically. So what would Spielberg's be? What would be? Say someone's used Argento's. Me personally, I would try and put in Argento's Animals trilogy into that rather than his later stuff. I'm trying to think of John Carpenter's 4 movies though. If it was going to be 4 straight movies, the perfect 4 movies without any duds. So they had Christine as the 4th movie. No, Christine is not that good a movie. For me, it's Halloween. It's The Thing, The Fog. What's the 4th fucking film? What's the 4th movie of Carpenter's? 70 Halloween, Fog 80, Things 82. It's Escape from New York. Yeah, Escape from New York. Yeah, thank you, Griffin. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of in my opinion, if you're going to do Carpenter, it's Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York and The Thing. The guy on Twitter, he missed out Halloween, which is just like, you know, no, I'm not having that one. But he went with so he went The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, and then Christine. No, I'm not having that, man. Not having that at all. Obviously, it's up. Some people might want to try and throw in Big Trouble in Little China, but then obviously, if you're going to limit it to 4 movies, then you're going to be missing out then on The Fog. So it's quite a good little concept of like 4 movies. So you can't just a run of 4 films. So in terms of Argento, like where would you guys fall if you're an Argento fan? Like I personally would like to go with the Animals trilogy, and then I'm not sure what film came after the Animals trilogy. Was it Deep Red? Because I'm not a big fan of Inferno, and I don't think Tenebrae is as good as Bird with Crystal Plumage. I'm curious to see what Lorne's answer would be for like basically a run of 4 movies by one director, which is better than any other. So Jack says, I don't know about Tarantino, but I have high hopes for Scorsese's new film, Flowers of the Elder Moon, coming out October. Yeah, that's with the DiCaprio, right? It's called The Movie because about third-rate film from Puerto Rico in the 70s. Argento was damn near perfect in his early days. He certainly was. Crystal, Red, Suspiria, Creepers. Big Trouble. So, yeah. Okay, so Lorne's got his Wilden Frequent, Boys in the Band, Exorcist, Friends Connection, and Sorcerer. I've seen 2 of those movies, so I need to check out Boys in the Band and Sorcerer. I'm surprised by that one. I would have thought it would have been even more obscure than that. I mean, that's not particularly obscure, but I thought you might have come up with something I've never even heard of, something from like the 1930s or something. You know what I mean? The underwater sequence in the film was terrific. Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, in terms of like what would Spielberg's best 4? I'm trying to think of Spielberg's filmography and like in terms of like year. I might have to go on Wikipedia and check that one out because Spielberg must have like 4 movies there back to back. Let's have a look. So, okay, let's see. So Spielberg, we've got. Okay, let's ignore the earlier films. See, Spielberg's right. So if you want to go with Jaws, you've got Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, solid movie, arguably not one of his best. But then you've got 1941, which comes in between that and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Jaws, Close Encounters, and Raiders of the Lost Ark are 3 stone cold classics. But 1941 kind of fucks up that sort of like lineage there. So if you start off with, let's just say we start off with Raiders, you get Raiders, then E.T., then you get Twilight Zone. So hang on, Spielberg directed. I thought he was. Did he direct? Oh, so he did. He did part. Yeah, he didn't do all the Twilight. So we won't count Twilight Zone because he only directed some of it. So if you start off with Raiders, you've got Raiders, E.T., Temple of Doom, and then you got The Color Purple, which The Color Purple's not for everyone, to be fair. So again, it's kind of, has he got that perfect? There's always something in his list that comes along that is just kind of fucks it up for him, in my opinion, anyway. I mean, Jesus Christ, I totally forgot that he directed The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Jesus. Yeah, my God. He's done some shit, really. Spielberg. He has done some shit, really. My God, I've forgotten how much shit he had done. But, yeah, there's not really that. I mean, I would say that, though, that 75 Jaws, I mean, we'll have to include 1941 for that because honestly, going after that, there's always a movie that fucks things up for him. Just my opinion, but I think Um, Lon says, "Well, if we're running free, Jacques Saunier, cat people, I walk with a zombie leopard." That's more like it, Lon. Yeah, you mentioned a director I've never heard of, and 3 films that I've never. Well, cat people. I think I've heard of cat people, but is that is that did they remake it in the 80s or the 80s with that actress with blonde hair who I can't remember the name of? But I Walk with a Zombie, no idea. Leopard Man, never heard of it. I love Inferno. Honestly, Dario could do wrong for me at that time. Yeah, I mean, Inferno for me is just a bit too like out there. It's just a bit too. I don't know. I mean, I like me my films to be more grounded in reality. I don't say reality because obviously in horror movies anything goes. It's quite. I'm trying to think of the word. What word could describe Inferno? Lorne, could you describe Inferno in one word? Because I'm trying to think of what word. We did discuss this movie a while ago on a stream, and I spoke to you about the film and why it didn't work for me. And I probably used a word which I can't remember, but maybe psychedelic. I don't know. It is what it is, and it's just a bit too out there for me. But I still, it's still entertaining for me. It's still definitely entertaining. Um, Beware the 1980 capital. It ain't good. um, you have another remake coming. Surreal. That could be a word. I have managed to catch up on a few. The list I did a few weeks ago, like greatest British horror movies of all time. I have been catching up on them. I have been trying to watch ticking them off as it goes, and I have watched quite a few. I watched The Legend of Hell House today from '73 with Roddy. Is it Roddy McDowall? Um, is it Roddy McDowall? Yeah, Roddy McDowall and Clive Revill. And for anyone who doesn't know, Clive Revill is the voice of the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back, the original version, before obviously it was remade to include Ian McDiarmid. Legend House, yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. I watched Frenzy, the Hitchcock movie, which I've not seen. I really like Frenzy. Frenzy's just like it's just it's a slow burn, but you never like bored. And for somebody who like obviously grew up in Britain, this old school, like the whole movie's like sort of filmed in London more or less, and it's like early '70s London, and it's like a different time. This is like London before the skyscrapers and looking like New York. Like, once upon a time, London did not look like New York. It was very much, there was no high rises really, apart from a few high rise flats and shit. And it's like a time machine I just love the look of old school London. The look of London now is it just feels like every other like major city in the world, and it's lost a lot of its character. Um, but yeah, really, really like Frenzy. Deathline, not so much. Deathline was kind of like I was expecting more. Donald Pleasance is great in it. He's kind of like um, trying to play up. He's Donald Pleasance in Halloween is a very different character from the character he plays in Deathline. In Deathline, he's trying to play it up as this kind of sort of like working class sort of cop, but he doesn't really pull it off very well. He's not very convincing. Donald Pleasance, I don't think was really like a working class guy. I think he was quite sort of upper crust. Maybe not his background, but I think he became more upper crust as he got older. But he doesn't really pull off the sort of working class character very well. But Christopher Lee just turns up randomly in one scene to just berate Donald Pleasance, and it's never really explained to why he's there. which is all very strange. Um, I watched Quatermass in the Pit as well, which is I thought I'd like that more. To be honest, Quatermass in the Pit. Again, it's very much it's a very 60s movie. It's that old school London feel, but there's something about the way they were directed back in the 60s that it the way they talk to each other, it feels very sort of like almost there's almost like a sort of robotic nature to it. It's hard to describe. It's almost like it almost feels like with these some of these older movies, the way they were told to act, they almost feel like NPCs in like a video game. It doesn't feel that natural. And I don't know what it is. It's not that they're bad actors. It's I think it's how they were directed at the time. It feels very awkward and stilted. Um, and I think a lot of the times, well, with a lot of these movies, which a lot of these British movies, especially, um, when it came to like obviously having like working class actors in these roles, I'm not sure at the time whether there was really much whether working class people could really get on in terms of acting, and they just hired a bunch of like sort of well-to-do, people who come up, you know, lived a quite a privileged life, and they've been thrown into roles where they're playing, blue collar characters because they never really sound very convincing. But I mean, that's just my take. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but yeah, there's just something about some of these old UK movies where it just feels very, very awkward the way they connect with each other. But I still love the films. I certainly love Frenzy. Frenzy, I thought was fantastic. Let's just get back in the chat. Cronenberg has never made a bad film. He never declined like most of the greats did. Yeah, he's certainly he never sold out, Cronenberg, that's for sure. Andrew Davis films, Above the Law, The Package, Under Siege, and The Fugitive. Legend of Hell House is timeless. Frenzy's Kitchen, yeah, but yeah, definitely. Bob is your uncle. I'm not Mike's uncle. Howard Hawks bringing up baby. Only angels have wings. His Girl Friday. Sergeant York. Lee did it because he wants to do something with Donald. Have you been? That explains Christopher Lee's appearance. Then it would have been nice to for him to have more of a role, though. It's just like he just pops up and then disappears. Have you been making way through this? Yes, I have done. Yes, still got a lot to go. Anyway, we've gone for like an hour now. It's been like a nice little hour stream. Covered a few bases. I will be live next Sunday with Dave from Savage Zombie Reviews and probably JT as well if he's awake. But for everyone who jumped on tonight, much appreciated. It's good to get back on this sort of like intimate sort of like one-on-one stream, just covering a few topics. Griff, I'd like to see you on board, man. Griff, we'll have to do another live stream at some point. Some of our old live streams, good fun. So, whenever you want to like jump on board, man, just let me know. Oh yes, I should be on. Dan says, Horror Rumble tonight on Jess's channel. You know what, Dan? I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Like Jess's channel I've got notifications on for Jess. I know Jess streams like when I'm fast asleep, but occasionally, I'll wake up like middle of the night or like 5 a.m. I can jump on like and just go in the chat. But YouTube, man, it's just like I don't get notifications for a lot of these channels, and there's been times where Jess has put a live stream out and I've not even got the notification, and it's only the next day when I've clicked on subscriptions, it's popped up. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe the best thing to do is to unsubscribe and then subscribe again. I don't know, but yeah, okay, Griff. Yes, that's good, man. Dan's gonna be on Gorophobe's channel tomorrow. I have no idea when. It's like 4:05 in the morning, which Is that Eastern time? Don't know. Just 4:05. I think I saw the notification for. I think that's four. Is that Is that 4:05 my time? So that's late, even in the US, right? Yeah, YouTube's been weird. It has. Um, yeah, Piz's Patreon stream tomorrow night. Hopefully, I will be on that. Hope I should be off work Tuesday, so it's been a while since I've been on Piz's Patreon stream. So looking forward to that. Dan, I'm assuming Dan and Lauren will be on there tomorrow as well. So yeah, check that. Should be Piz's Patreon stream is usually 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, 1 a.m. UK time. I'll have to get a couple of hours sleep in before I do that though, because I'm usually like a fucking zombie when that comes around. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, hopefully be on Piz's Patreon stream tomorrow night, and then live again next Sunday with Dave and JT and anybody else who wants to jump on. So for everybody who jumped on tonight, much appreciated. Chat's been great. Anybody new in the comment section, much appreciated. Make sure you subscribe. Please like the stream as well. That makes a big difference, I think. Good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.